Hello and welcome to Let's Ride with Stonewolf. We are just leaving Peebles in Scotland. And we're on our way home. The road is wet, but we haven't been rained on really since Glasgow. I suspect the rain that I experienced there has been moving ahead of me after I had lunch, and I'm simply catching up with it. We are going to get some spray from these vehicles, but we are going to pass them when we get a chance. If we can get a chance. It's hard to see what the road's doing ahead. To the left. We can go for it here, maybe. Shut that vent. Tuck in here, because the turn coming up. That's a bit better. But, I still don't want to be behind these guys. They're just kicking up too much spray. And also going very slowly for some reason. I blame that Punto. Because everyone seems to be bunched up behind them. But, what were we talking about last episode? Yes, we were trying to divine what Energica might do next in terms of product launches. Whether they might launch a new motorcycle. And what that might be. No, not yet. Come on. No. So, I reckon, if they were to launch a new model, what we would see is something based on the Xperia. And probably either an adventure bike, like a proper adventure bike. The Xperia, remember, is a tall tourer, not a real adventure bike. Or a supermoto. And hear me out here on that one. It's a weird suggestion, I know. But firstly, the Xperia is a tall bike. It wouldn't really adapt very well to a not tall bike, essentially. It's not a full-on adventure bike. Apparently, like its vertical ground clearance isn't very good. That's something they might need to solve, but they could probably do that with like some suspension trickery. Because it would need suspension changes to make it an adventure bike anyway. That would put them in direct competition with the DSR-X. Which would be fine, because it'd kick the DSR-X's ass. In my opinion. It'd need like some adventure bike type upgrades, you know, some definitely totally need for whatever it is you're doing with your adventure bike. Yes, you definitely totally need that for driving up a single track road. Or going to Starbucks. But they could do that. I don't think that'd be too much of a crazy adaptation. You might say that, you know, well, why wouldn't they do that to start with instead of releasing it as a tall tourer? And the answer to that is that adventure bikes have kind of had their day. Adventure bikes were super big since basically long way around. That really kicked off the adventure bike craze. Adventure bike existed before them, but the whole adventure bike craze really kicked off with that. Just do some wiping here. And since then, like, it's been a really big deal in motorcycling. It's increasingly been like the market to be in, especially over the last like 10 years. And like regular sports bikes have just died. But a lot of the guys who got really into adventure bikes kind of realized that they don't need them, and they swapped to like tall tourers instead. So tall tourers are really kind of where you want to be at in motorcycling these days, because the guys who got super into adventure bikes and don't really have a whole lot of experience of anything else want tall tourers. So it really makes sense to release the Xperia as a tall tourer, and that's why they've done the whole thing like this is a touring bike. But they could easily adapt it into an adventure-ish bike, and I think that would be a really interesting move for them to make. I'm not convinced it'd be the right move for them to make, but it would create a second segment where there is actual competition in the electric motorbike market, for sure, which would be good. And it'd offer all of the, like, the adventure granddads a little bit of a taste of electric, although this is where we get into whether or not it would make sense, because it's exactly those guys who are all against electric, right? You go and you look at people who are like, I'd never go electric, electric's terrible. They're all like adventure guys who own GSAs, and they're like, I got 300 miles per tank. And it's like, yeah, sure, granddad, that's the most important thing. This guy can't see me. Thank you. Yeah, so you've got that to work against. Although, because you're not spending a huge amount of R&D, you don't have to sell as many of the bikes. So you can exploit the fact that there are like adventure guys out there who are like, oh yeah, electric, that sounds really good. You just have to like have something good to capture that market. So that's the other half of the problem. Adventure bike, like modern adventure bikes, are like the Starship Enterprise, right? They are so loaded with all kinds of stuff. Like, we're electronic gizmos and toys and Android Auto. All bikes should have Android Auto. Though that's a whole other subject. They're so loaded with stuff that for you to come along and compete in that market as a niche manufacturer who doesn't have access to like all of that technology, you know, you're offering a lesser product. And unless you could be like, well, this is the pure experience of an adventure bike, right? You say, yes, those bikes have all the technology, but we give you the purest adventure experience. Then it's hard to justify your price against those bikes. And while I do think electric can do that, I'm not sure the Xperia platform can do that. As good as it is, the Xperia platform is good. Don't get me wrong, just because I'm not interested in buying one doesn't mean that it's bad. I happen to think that it is very good. And I think that it just wouldn't sell. However, and I don't think this is the direction that Xperia or that Energica would go. However, what you could do with the Xperia platform is make a Sumo. You would again need to do a little bit of the work of the suspension, because I do understand that it grinds out a little easy. But you just strip the bike down to the essentials. You get rid of that rear subframe with the luggage holding and just like put something really light on. It has the same motor setup as this bike. Well, not exactly the same. It's got the incremental updates over time. So you put the map on there from like the Ego or the Ribelle, where you give it maximum power. I think that'd be something absolutely wild and cool, and not stupidly expensive to develop either, because you don't have to like go out there with all the bells and whistles on. You just go out there saying, hey look, remember that time we introduced like a tall tourer? Well, we stripped it to the bone and gave it maximum power. Go wild. And it plays into the strengths of these bikes, right? This bike is very smooth. It's very nice. You can just wend through the corners. You can just have a nice relax. But if you want a hoon, this thing is such an absolute hooligan, right? Because you have so much torque, right? You could just throw it into a corner, right? You flat out on the straight. Then as you're approaching the corner, you just roll off maximum. It hauls itself back at regen. You dip into the corner and then rip the throttle open, and it flies out, right? So that's exactly what you want in a Sumo. Whoops. Right? That is exactly what you want in a Sumo. And yes, it'd be a bit hefty, right? You just have to accept that, right? Electric bikes are. But from my understanding, the way that the Xperia is built, it has even better like weight distribution than these Ego platform bikes. So you can just chuck it around in a way that seems really unintuitive. And that's what you would want to do on a sumo too. So I think, like, if Energica really wanted to do something absolutely wild and make some headlines, what they would do is they would make a sumo version of Xperia. Whether it would sell or not, I have no idea. But it would be absolutely cool as balls. I still wouldn't buy one. Not because, like, I don't think it'd be any good or anything like that. Or not. I'm not like backseat driving, but I'm never going to drive type stuff. And the reason I wouldn't buy one is because that's just not the kind of bike that I look for. They already make a bike for me. Well, I mean, they already make a bike that I like. I've said before, I would like this bike with a full fairing. Like a touring fairing. But otherwise exactly the same bike. I think the lady tried to talk to me. And then, did she say second exit? I'm gonna assume she said second exit. I wasn't listening. Selkirk, yeah, Selkirk's where we're going. But I think if they really wanted to make a splash, that'd be like an absolutely hot thing to do. Because the funny thing is, Zero make kind of a supermoto, and it's a bit lame. It's like one of their FXs, I can't remember which one is a supermoto. But the FX platform is very limited. Like an Xperia-based sumo would be kind of like some of the it'd be kind of like some of the more hooligan-y KTMs. We don't want to be stuck behind this guy. Can we get past this guy? I don't know, can we? The other thing is, like, you don't have to feel bound by, like, some of the forms of petrol, if that makes sense at all. Like, what does size of bike even mean in electric terms? Like, in electric terms, what is a liter bike? This thing performs a lot like a liter bike, but the concept has no meaning to it. It's just a broad, like, power classification. And over time, power changes, you know. 600s of today are pretty outdone the kind of power of, like, the liter bikes of yesteryear. So what does it even mean to be a leader bike when you're electric. And ultimately, like, you could make 6 different models of this bike with exactly the same hardware and just different power profiles. That was just what a bad surface to come onto that turn on. Those guys, by the way, in the motorhome, they have every right to be in this road. You know, it's very easy to complain about them and be like, holding everyone up and all this stuff. They have as much right to be in this road as you did. I complained about them on the NC500, and I have very good reasons for doing that, but we're not on the NC500 anymore. Hawik a little low on battery, but I think we might have expected that anyway. Bit of a tight one. I'm looking forward to seeing like new developments in electric motorcycles. As much as I love my Energica, I would like to see like Kawasaki or Triumph or someone like get in it. It was a sign telling you to slow down because it's a blind entrance. Wait, surfaces a bit, but you know, it'll come in time. I'm guessing this is Selkirk. It'll come in time. It won't come in time for whatever my next purchase is. I'm looking at the state of the market. I think my next purchase will probably be another one of these. I said this on the way back up, like there's nothing wrong with this. It's doing really well. I've not really... I mean, I ride this thing hard and put it away wet, and it still feels absolutely solid. It still performs really well. I've not really noticed like battery degradation at all. Like I'm on 14,500 miles over a year and a half. So yeah, like purely the only reason why I decided that when the finance runs out in another year's and a half time, I will sell it, is because I wanted to go in the second-hand market so someone else can experience it, and I'll get a new one with all the incremental updates. Of course, in that year and a half, things could change. You know.
Quarter of a mile,
BMW could turn around and say, hey, we made an electric motorbike. And I might be, ooh. Ducati could turn around and say, hey, we're releasing our Moto E bike. But I don't think they will. Kawasaki might actually release something that people want, but I don't think that's gonna happen. Over the next year and a half, I think what we might see is the death of the faster horse. So if you want to know what that means, Henry Ford once said if he'd asked people what they actually wanted, they'd have said a faster horse. And I think that is certainly where we find ourselves in motorcycling today. If you ask motorcyclists what they want, they will say hydrogen. Because they've been told they can't have petrol anymore, and that hydrogen will solve all of the problems with internal combustion. And it won't. But that's what they've been told. And I think the next year and a half we will see the death of the faster horse. Because right now motorcyclists want more internal combustion, and inevitably the answer is going to be you can't have more internal combustion. But, you know, what killed the faster horse with cars in Henry Ford's time was that cars were just better than whatever people thought they wanted. And my experience with electric motorbikes is that, you know, give it a few years. I think maybe a new battery chemistry. That's what's going to win out. The thing is... The thing is... Google... What are you doing?
In 100 yards, turn right. Turn right.
The road just goes to the right, Google. I'm just going to assume that this is the way you wanted me to go. Because there's no signs or anything, so... Now, if you're trying to get me to do a U-turn, just say you do a U-turn. Because... like, I don't want to drive up here 3 miles and you'd be like, turn left, turn left, turn left. I want to actually be on the road to Hawik. We might have a sign here. No, no, no. Okay. That. Something I... Where was I? We'll just assume that it's right. That might be why Google was trying to take me a weird way. So, we'll just do a quick cut here. go about 10 miles, I guess. Oh, yeah. This is the road to Hawik, so that's good. Concentrating very hard. Okay. I was just looking at my clock and musing. So, we got it right. This is the road to Hawik. That's good. I didn't realize what time it was. It's like 1:55. I'd kind of expected to get to Hawik sometime around 2. But it's only 10 miles, so we shouldn't be that far off. And we might get there in the 20s, which would be good. I feel like the weather is about to change. But, okay. What was I talking about? I was talking about something. Yeah, okay. So, I was talking about how, like, maybe it'll take a change of battery chemistry, but there is going to come a point very soon where the electric bike is just better. I already think, like, in terms of riding it, the electric bike is better. This bike is so good. It is held back, I think. By charging, not necessarily by range. Although that could be better. I think it's okay, you know. But certainly by charging, the charging characteristics of the bike leave something to be desired, and that is just purely down to the technology involved. The whole charging infrastructure is like a whole different story. But if you watched enough of these videos, you'll have heard me talking about, oh yeah, the battery is yellow, blah blah blah. That's kind of what I'm talking about, right? You know, you stop, you charge the bike, it takes a while, that may not be a consistent time, especially like if you're serial charging, if you're out on the road, and you're charging, you're out on the road, you're charging, you're out on the road, you're charging. Like when you're touring like this, you run into like the battery heating problem. That's all to do with like the technology in use, like the battery chemistries that we have access to. And I think that in the next 3 to 5 years, that is going to change. That is going to change dramatically. We're going to get new battery chemistries, whether it is sodium or solid state lithium, one of the two. I think within the next 5 years we will see that deployed to motorcycles. And when it happens, we're going to see probably liquid cooled batteries. Right now with the current technology, like I'm using the same technology that you will find in a Tesla, but a Tesla, because it's a car, can liquid cool its battery, whereas the bike just can't. It's too bulky, it's too heavy. And what that would do is it wouldn't particularly improve the battery performance for riding, except perhaps on cold days, because you could sacrifice a little bit of the battery's capacity to heat the battery up, and that has been proven in cars to significantly improve range in the cold, because the amount of energy used to heat the battery up is less than the amount that you save. And most importantly, it will make charge times faster and more consistent, because heat and the charge is where the current chemistry really falls down. It's not the weight, it's not the bulk, it's not the expense. These are all manageable things. It's those charge times, because the charge rate has to be really closely managed. And also, like, you have to do things in ways that manage the health of the battery yourself. I'm not going to get into what those things are, but like they're all just like little things you have to remember to do when you're out on the road. Just in terms of like the way that you set up your route, and you know what you do when you stopped to have a charge. All that stuff will go away with a new battery chemistry, and I think like active thermal management. But we're not quite there yet. And in all of the other aspects, like, this bike is really great. So I think that being able to get that incorporated into a bike like this, it would start to be very difficult to make the argument for a petrol bike. Yeah, basically, the only argument you would have left is that petrol bikes are cheaper. Although, sodium batteries apparently are quite price competitive. Or at least should be, because we don't really know yet. They're not in mass production. But they should be. I think I said before that if solid state is where we go, because of the price of solid state, it is likely that this will be the technology that you end up riding, whether second hand or first hand, and the solid state battery will continue to be a premium offering. I don't think that is necessarily untrue of sodium, but if any of these battery chemistries can be rolled out at a cheaper price point to the traditional lithium-ion, that would be a big boon. For the foreseeable future, though, I think electric is going to prove itself to be superior in the next few years, but as a premium product. And then as we get closer to that 2035 deadline, what we will see is the price will come down, because economies of scale in the car world will allow electric motorbikes to come down in price. And hydrogen and other combustion technologies are going to fall by the wayside. Forget about synthetic fuels. Synthetic fuels will not save you. But I think we are coming into Hawik. So this is going to be where I leave y'all. If you have stuff to say, certainly I think you may disagree with some of my points. Hit me up in the comments below. Do be constructive, please. But if you enjoyed this video, give it a like. Check out some of my other videos. You may enjoy them also. If you do, consider subscribing, hit that bell, and if you would like to reward me for entertaining you today, you can find the relevant links to do so in the description below. Bye bye.